everyone, I'm Sheriff Wayne Ivey, and welcome to another episode of On the Go with BCSO, our Brevard County Sheriff's Office podcast, where we take a behind-the-scenes look at the Sheriff's Office, all the incredible things that our members do, and get a chance to meet some of our members that run our team. I'll start out, though, by introducing my co-host, Deputy Jay Martinez. Jay, always great to have you on the show, buddy. Are you doing well?
Great to be here. Yeah, really good.
All right, so we're coming up on our favorite time of the year with all the different events and things that we go do and stuff. So getting to do the podcast is also pretty cool as well. So we got Ken Lamp with us today, and Ken is one of my favorite parts of the agency. Ken works at our Paws and Stripes College, and some of you right now are probably going, "What is Paws and Stripes College?" And we're going to get you all that information. But Ken, first of all, welcome to the show, man. And
thanks so much. I appreciate the invite.
How long have you been with the agency?
Been with the agency about 5.5 years now.
All right. So walk me through. You started where?
I actually started over at the jail as a corrections deputy in 2014, and got promoted to field training officer over there. And while I was field training officer, the vacancy for the corporal's position come open at Paws and Stripes in 2016. So I put in for that and was fortunate enough and blessed enough to get that position. Been there at Paws and Stripes ever since.
All right. So what'd you do before you came here? I mean, you're like 62 years old or something. So.
I'm closing in on it. I haven't quite reached it yet, but I am closing in on it. Actually, I had a little over 22-year career with the Department of Corrections. Had started there when I was 19 years old as a correctional officer, and actually when I left the agency, I was a warden. So I was really blessed in that career and had some great mentors in my life, as I do here as well. And actually was so-called semi-retired for about 10 years. And
then we drug you back in.
And then you drug me back in, yes, sir.
Now, I think you would argue that you probably have one of the best jobs in the agency. Is that?
I've got the best job in the agency, yes, sir.
So you work at our Paws and Stripes College, and tell our listeners, what's Paws and Stripes College? What do we do there?
Well, actually, what we do is it's myself and two other deputies, Deputy Faye and Deputy Mariah Biddle is the new deputy that's coming in. That we had a vacancy there, and she's coming in. And then we have a great trainer, Clara Mutter. She's actually our trainer there. And what we do is we take inmate work squads, both male and female, and we take those inmates and we get dogs from our shelter down there off of Oak Alley, the South Animal Care Center, and we do assessments on them at the South Animal Care Center. And if they pass the assessment, we bring them up to our facility, which is right across the street from the jail. And we train them to be comfort and law enforcement therapy dogs there. And we train the inmates also on how everything from grooming to just being able to take care of the dogs and cleaning up after the dogs, keeping the kennel maintenance up and everything, to actually even learning or teaching them how to train the dogs.
So we're taking rescue dogs.
Yes, sir.
Dogs that we're trying to find forever homes for. We're training them it's not just about being obedient and socialized. This is a step further. This is training them to be a law enforcement comfort dog that actually goes in and sits with a child that has been the victim of a crime.
You're exactly right. Yes,
and
sir.
So, this program that we started, Paws and Stripes in its initial phase started under Sheriff Parker,
right.
And just had this great concept to take. And at that point, we were just trying to get dogs where they were more adoptable from it. But then when we took over Animal Care Center in 2014, we kind of put the program on steroids. And,
right.
I'll ask you to kind of share that, right? But just kind of to lead in. One of our former members, Jesse Holton,
right.
who moved with his family up north, had the idea to do a child comfort dog program. And tell me what a child comfort dog does.
Well, and actually what that was, and you correct, Jesse, he was an agent here, but he was also going to school full-time to get his doctorate. And he actually did his doctoral thesis on the use of a law enforcement therapy dog and disclosure rates, in checking the disclosure rates on child victims of all crimes, but specifically in Jesse's case was sexual victims.
Yeah, because a child that's been the victim of a crime is, when we go to interview them, they're in a completely sterile environment. There's nobody in there with them, and unfortunately, sometimes the people they trust the most are not in there with them, or are suspect even in the case.
Correct.
And so I think before Jesse came up with the idea to do this program, we were getting about 31% of the kids to disclose to us what had happened.
You're exactly right. And that's when we knew we already had other evidence that they had been abused.
Right.
So that's how we knew it was only 31%.
Yeah, and then we now take a dog in. Dog sits with the child. The child reads to it, feeds it, loves on it.
Walks it.
Yeah, walks it. And our disclosure rates have gone to 84%.
Right,
Okay,
right.
So
Low 80s is what we average, is the low 80%. Now, we actually have 2 law enforcement therapy dogs with our agency now.
right. So I mean, and 3 if you count Junie, because
And 3.
because he's the sheriff's comfort dog. So
He is.
yeah. So, but and he's actually been through the program.
He has. Yes, Junie has been through our program. We have 4 law enforcement therapy dog courses a year, once a quarter. And we've placed dogs everywhere from Ohio, Georgia,
Kentucky, Texas,
all over the place. We have one at University of Central Florida, one at the University of Maryland, one at the University of Vanderbilt. We have them all over the place.
Sheriff Mina and his team from Orange County just came and got one of our dogs. So let's talk about that. We take that rescue dog. Obviously, the dog's evaluated for just their personality, their characteristics and stuff. We bring them to our facility, which Jay, your office is right there across from, so you've seen it. But I think it's one of the premier dog training facilities in the country. And I'm not saying that just because it's ours. It's amazing. And the great part about it is we paid for it with the inmate welfare fund. We didn't use taxpayer dollars. We used the money that comes from the telephones in the jail. And we're able to pay for it all with the inmate welfare money. So when we start counting wins, win number 1.
Right.
Win number 2 is we're taking dogs that some of them were in pretty sad shape, and now they're going on and going to impact thousands of children in their lives. Yeah. And then win 3, we're taking inmates, taking and teaching them a trade. And a lot of them go out and they get jobs with grooming salons and animal daycare centers and places like that. And then we're changing the disclosure rates for child victims across the country. So is there a downside to this program?
There's not one that I can think of. And even the inmates that don't, once they get out of jail, even those inmates that don't follow up in a dog career, they still tell me about how the job impacted them when they were here.
Yeah,
and just lowering their stress levels and helping their attitude and just helping the time that they were here be more bearable so they could focus on getting their life straightened out.
Right. Yeah, I think what you have to look at is the inmates are helping the dogs get through probably the toughest time of their lives, and the dogs are helping the inmates get through the toughest time of theirs. And there's a great, a lot of success stories out of the Paws and Stripes College, but I think the one that probably stands out the most to me was recently we were contacted by a college up north, and they shared a story with us. Do you share that with us?
Sure. That was one of our previous female inmates. And when she got out of jail from here, she actually had gotten herself a job working at a doggy daycare center. And then she was fortunate enough to move up north with some family that would help her out. And she actually started going back to school to finish, and she's actually finished her degree now. She's got her AA now. And she had actually wrote a paper on her experience being in jail and how Paws and Stripes had impacted her. And the professor is actually who contacted us and sent you the letter about the impact that we made on her and how that has really just turned her life around 180 degrees.
Yeah, here she is now, a college graduate.
Exactly.
So, I mean, the abilities for this program. And then, we're counting wins here. Add another win to it because we call it Paws and Stripes College now because we partnered with my great friend, Dr. Jim Ritchie from Eastern Florida State College and his team. They have a vet tech program.
They do.
And so their partnership with us, they help fund some of it, of the salary for Claire. But their benefit is their vet techs come there and work under the tutelage of our veterinarians from the Animal Care Center, and they get to do hands-on training with the dogs.
And they do all kind of things with our dogs. Just a couple of weeks ago, we took one of our dogs actually up to their facility there off of Clear Lake, and they were doing dental cleanings. So they were able to utilize one of our dogs for dental cleanings.
Something very near and dear to you.
That's right. It's all about dental cleaning.
Look at those teeth.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But going back to the facility that you're talking about that we have here, we did a tour there not too long ago, and I didn't realize that there's separate rooms with different environments specifically to condition dogs, so things like vacuum cleaners, just things that they may not have seen prior to getting through our system.
Right.
You have all these things in place, staircases, all kinds of things that help socialize these dogs.
Yeah, because what you'll find a lot of times, we'll just have a dog that's stray. That's how they end up at the South Animal Care Center. And that dog may have not ever seen a vacuum cleaner or been in a house where there was refrigerators, ceiling fans, anything.
Right.
Walkers or even
Treadmills, rolling wheelchairs, anything like that. We try to expose the dog to balloons, anything and everything that we can expose the dog to is just going to help the dog be a much better socialized dog and be able to be more confident if he happens to get in a situation to where he's unsure of, he'll have the confidence to be able to overcome that anxiety or whatever you may have. Even to the point to where in our living room, we have a small living room, you've seen it.
Yep.
We have a small living room, it has laminate flooring. Our kitchen has tile flooring. The child's bedroom has carpet. Because if you don't expose the dog to all of these different little things, the dog may be afraid of it if he's never seen it before. Because we've had dogs be walking on concrete, get to the living room and slam on brakes when he's seen the laminate floor and didn't want to walk on it.
Yeah.
So you have to expose them to those little things, umbrellas, all those kinds of things.
Now, we do, I think you said 4 classes a year.
For the law enforcement therapy dog course,
And
we
so
sure do.
law enforcement officers from, it's fair to say, across the country now,
Across the country, yes, sir.
are coming here. They're getting a dog from us out of our animal care center. They're getting the week of training, which
Yes,
we
sir.
provide free to them. The only
We do.
thing they do is they pay their cost of travel.
Right.
The training is 100% free to them. And then they take the dog, they go back to their community.
Right.
And now this dog is working with the children that are victims of crime, but they're also taking these dogs to schools.
Correct, definitely.
I know from talking with our team out there, we have had some of our dogs that have trained at our facility at Parkland, at a school in Franklin, Kentucky, where they had a school shooting. We've had them at the bank in Sebring,
Right.
and even out in Texas for a couple of the tragedies they've had out there. We've had dogs that we trained, that we rescued out of our shelter, gave to other agencies that are now deployed and are impacting lives.
In speaking about that tragedy that happened in Sebring, the deputy and the dog that initial day worked, I think it was either a 16 or 17 hour day.
Yeah.
They had to make notifications to families. I mean, they had to do some tough things.
Yeah, what you guys are doing out there is amazing. And quite frankly, we're the only agency in the country that provides this level of training.
Right.
And now there are some other agencies that have said, hey, we're going to pick up and do it in other parts of the country as well.
They have. We've actually had a couple come down and took tours, and some of them have gotten dogs from us. Forsyth, Georgia being one of them.
The sheriff actually came and got a dog.
He sure
there.
did.
And let's be honest, his dog is nowhere near as good looking as Junie.
Oh, exactly. Of course not.
Yeah,
Right.
Well,
And that really is the best part of my job is I get to spend time with Junie.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about that for a minute, Kim, because
I knew we'd get there.
Yeah. So tell me about Junie's kennel that he has.
Well, we call it Junie's condo. Has a couch in it. It has a picture of him and the sheriff in it, because of course Junie whines when he has away time from the sheriff,
Right.
and I would have to listen to that. So I try to make sure we comfort Junie as much as we can.
Right.
And he has a condo where the rest of the dogs basically live in an efficiency kennel.
It's about the size of an apartment.
It is. It's about the size of an apartment, but Junie's a big boy too.
Yeah. But he does he get upset if he doesn't get to go out with the sheriff?
I promise he gets upset, and he knows when the sheriff comes to get him because I get to hear about it. So I promise you, he does.
So how do the other dogs feel about Junie?
They don't like Junie too much. They're a little jealous. We have to walk the way the facility's set up. We've got to walk our dogs a lot of times by Junie in his condo, and you can just see it in the other dogs. You're like, wait a minute, I see what I'm walking out of, and I see what he's in. There's no way this can be fair. So we just have to give him a treat and keep him going.
It's the sheriff's dog, man. I mean,
yeah, it's the sheriff's dog, exactly.
So now you see quite a few dogs come through there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And not every dog that comes through the program goes on to be a child comfort dog or a law enforcement comfort dog.
No, sir.
But some of them, when we return them back to the animal care center, they've now got obedience training.
Right.
And now they're more adoptable. They're socialized. They can be around other animals and things.
For sure. And we even try to adopt the dogs out that don't go the law enforcement therapy dog role to members of the public who need a really, really good comfort animal or emotional support animal. So are veterans, are law enforcement and first responders, families with autistic children. We've adopted a lot of our dogs out of Paws and Stripes to families with autistic children. Just maybe a elderly person who needs that good, well-trained, well-behaved dog at home.
Right.
And we actually even have about an 8-hour course that we put the adopter through with the dog before they take the dog home when they get a dog from Paws and Stripes.
So just to show them what the dog is, how they're going to respond.
Exactly, right, exactly. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned veterans with PTSD. One of the things that we do is we work to provide a dog to our veterans. I know we work very closely with George Taylor and his team here from NVHS. When we're matching that dog, does the person come in and they get to pick from some different dogs that are there, or how do we match?
Usually what we try to do is, because we have a short application process, it's online, but we have a short application and they send it to us, and we talk to the person and we try to find out what their living situation is. Do they have a fenced-in backyard? Do they live in a condo? How much of the time of the day is the dog going to be by itself? And things like that. Because we don't want that person to come in and see 10 dogs and make an emotional decision. We want them to get a dog that they want and that they like. So what we typically try to do is get it down to 2 or 3 dogs for them. And then we have a situation where we do a meet and greet with them and let them choose from the 2 or 3 dogs that best fit their needs and their living situation.
Right.
So when the dog goes home, we want to set them up for success as much as we want to set ourselves up.
So we're trying to get them the dog that's going to do the best
for them.
And I know exactly what you mean when you say make an emotional decision, because when I picked Jay to be on the podcast, it was an emotional decision. I didn't pick,
and you're kind of, right
I'm
now.
stuck with it now. So,
You get any meet and greets or nothing.
Exactly. You just,
so I'm stuck with it now at this point, but I know what you mean. So when we're looking at all the different aspects of it, what's the most challenging part of it?
Well, sometimes it depends. It changes every day. That's one of the benefits of the job that I have is I get different challenges depending on the day that it is. Sometimes it might just be getting the right law enforcement therapy dog for the handler for whatever agency is going to be using it, whether they're using it in a school as a school resource officer dog like Seminole County uses theirs, or like we do as a victim's advocate, or for just community engagement like what Fort Lauderdale has and maybe some of the universities has. And then sometimes you'll just have a dog that has a little quirk about them, and I look at it as a challenge on how we can get that dog over that hurdle. Mm-hmm. How can I help the dog understand and help him over that hurdle that he may have had developed from a past incident, but I help him get over it. So I really enjoy that.
Wow. So in the course of your day, from a corrections aspect, you're supervising inmates.
Yes, sir.
Making sure they're doing the things that we need them to do in that. You're a dog trainer.
Right.
You're working with our team from our special victims unit and the needs of the animals and making sure we're training them to do that. You're recruiting agencies to come here and get a dog.
I am.
You're connecting dogs with veterans,
first responders. Yes, sir.
Man, you might have the best job.
I can't complain at all.
Yeah,
No,
we might need to get you like a condo or something out there where you could.
I'm for it. Yes, sir. I'm not mad.
Work more. So when we look at some of the cases we've had out there, I know we had a Orlando PD officer that we were able to match with a comfort dog, and his family came down. And one of the big things is it's not just you've trained the dog or the inmates have trained the dog, but now we have to spend time getting the dog to work for the person we're going to match him with.
You're exactly right. Dogs are not robots. Trained dogs are not robots. That foundation of the bond, and for all the people that have dogs at home, they know that. The bond that they have with their pet means a lot. Right. It not only means a lot to them, but it means a lot to the dog itself. So we kind of have to, for lack of a better term, transfer the leash. So if I'm training you for the dog, I got to get the dog to work for you just as good as he works for me. And that foundational relationship means a lot to the dog. Going back to the case you had talked about, a police officer from Orlando had to go out on disability because he had a severe incident and caused a lot of PTSD issues. And he had even moved out of the state, but had made contact with Jesse back when Jesse was here. And we were lucky enough and fortunate enough to get him a dog, and they come down. And actually, he's working with Jesse now. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah, Jesse's got another program that he's working on.
So he's working with Jesse on that, doing some first responder PTSD training and stuff. So
there's another backside to it, and his case is a perfect example. He'd moved out of state. If he'd had to buy the same caliber dog, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars to buy a dog trained at that level, and he's getting one from us for free.
Right.
And it's a rescue dog that we're trying to find a forever home for.
Right.
But we also met with some financial challenges of being able to get him and his family down here, because he's got a trained family too.
Right.
And so just great kudos to some of our local business owners.
We had some business partners that stepped up. And
Tom Hermanson stepped up and provided some lodging from his hotels over at the beach. Summit Shaw stepped up and provided lodging at his hotel. Joe Rodriguez from McDonald's, I think they ate McDonald's almost every day, but they provided it all as a part of this, because they all see how important this is to our community. And so just kudos to them and to you guys for creating those relationships.
Well, and on the backside of that, and speaking with this officer's wife, she really, and with tears in her eyes, she told me how much she appreciated this, because she was sure they were headed for a divorce.
Yeah.
And they have small kids, and she said it was just too much with, this is really saving our marriage.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just keeping that family together, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, the amazing things that come out of this program are just second to none. Now, we used to use all female inmates to train.
We did.
And we've recently changed, and we split that time now between male and females. Why?
We do. Well, what we were finding out is some of the dogs didn't want to work for men. Because everything good in the dog's life was coming from their handler, their trainers, the female deputies, the female inmates.
Yeah.
So they were finding out we'd send the dogs home. They may not be real good around the husband or the male. So that's one of the reasons, or one of the things that helped me get the position out there as well. And, just the impact of even like Deputy Faye, she and myself with our inmates, going back talking about the impact that it has on the inmates. It's never ending, and we get to hear stories all the time about how this impacts inmates, not only while they're with us, but when they're away from us, just from learning patience.
Yeah.
Because it's a dog, I have to work with him, and that dog will help teach.
Yeah, I mean, you think about some of them, unfortunately, have never had to be responsible for anything, accountable for anything. Some of them have never had a pet, so they don't know how to love, how to be loved.
How to care.
So how to care, be compassionate. So I think all of it kind of ties in very nicely.
It's very impactful on the inmates. You can see it.
Yeah. So, I mean, and like I said, man, you start counting out the win-win-wins of this program, and people love it. It's a great program. So in the little bit of time we have left, Ken, you have a pastime of working out. You
a little bit.
You like to do a little weightlifting and stuff.
I try.
You've actually competed at the Police Olympics and brought back some hardware, some gold medals.
Yes, sir. I've tricked them into a couple.
So how do you unwind when you get done at the end of the day?
Well, and that's probably one of my biggest things, obviously. So a few times a week I'm at the East Precinct over there trying to slow down my aging process. You've got me going quicker than I need to, but I'm trying to slow that down. And but then obviously spending time with my family, and me and my wife like to go on vacation. Actually just got back off of vacation. So we like to do a lot of traveling and spending time with my grandson and stuff like that.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, Ken, we appreciate everything. I get to interact a lot with you and the team out there at Paws and Stripes, because I'm out there all the time with Junie, and you and Tara and Claire and all the team out there do a great job, and we certainly appreciate it. And I know the dogs appreciate it too. So
yeah, we love it.
We appreciate having you on the show.
No problem.
So we're out of time. We want to thank you for all of your continued support for our agency. Certainly thank you for joining us on our podcast episodes here at On the Go with BCSO.